Do 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 or something like that. Hello and welcome to this episode 44 of the Sockmatician podcast. My name is Nathan Taylor, also known as Sockmatician, here on YouTube, also on Ravelry, Twitter and Instagram. If you don't follow me on any of those platforms, why on earth not? You're missing out on all the good stuff. In fairness, my Twitter Sockmatician account is pretty much only linked to my Instagram account these days. So if you have a choice, head over to Instagram. If you don't have Instagram, you can pick it up on Twitter. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Today is Wednesday, the 3rd of May. It's a sort of gloomy day outside. It looks like it's been raining, but actually that's pretty good in terms of the lighting for this podcast. There's not too much flare from the windows here. How the devil are you? This podcast episode, I feel like it's going to be sort of more admin based than anything else, and I think that's okay. I've got a lot of things I want to talk about, and I'm hoping you'll find it interesting. So I think what I should do is, once I've said to you, thank you very much for joining me. I really appreciate you spending some time listening to me waffle and burble on. Let's head on, grab a drink, grab a whip, get some knitting on the go, and let's crack in. So it's been, as always, a busy time. I'm not the kind of person, as you know, that ever really seems to get the chance to sit down and do nothing. I don't know what it is to be bored. I genuinely don't. And this last week and a half, or whatever it is, since I last podcasted, has been no exception. Unfortunately, one of the biggest things that's been taking up my time is still something I can't talk about. I am expecting to be able to get clearance to talk about this in the next, hopefully in the next couple of weeks. But this is the project that I've been working on with my vocal harmony group, who are called Vocally Bespoke, and we are getting together quite a lot and doing quite a lot of work on this specific thing that we're doing. So that's been taking up quite a lot of my time. In other news, what else have I been doing? Before we get on to the main stuff of the roundup, what I'd like to do is circle back to last episode when I announced the winners and the prize recipients for the March Sock-along. Can't believe we're in May already, I've only just done that. To anybody who, any of you winners, you should have by now have received your patterns if you were one of the 5 pattern recipients. If you're one of the 4 prize winners, don't panic yet. I haven't sent those off to you yet. I've got all your addresses. My plan is to get those sent off over the next couple of days because I do have some time when I can actually get some life admin done. So hopefully that should be winging its way to you wherever you are in the world sometime soon. My apologies for the delay on that. About the Sock-along, when I was trying to put together all the prizes and getting everything together, and I was looking at the 4 things. There's the book, Zena's yarn, the Juniper Moon yarn from Leslie in Norfolk, not Cornwall. Cornwall, not Norfolk. Mind already melting. And Karen Rambach's lovely stitch markers and badges and things. I put it all in a pile, and I was looking at it thinking, I'm sure there's something else. I was looking around at all the places that I keep knittily stuff, and I just couldn't think. I had a complete brain meltdown, and it was only after the episode went live that Lorena, who many of you will remember dyed the fantastic rainbow striping yarn for my recent Rainbow Pride socks, she contacted me and very kindly and charmingly said, "You forgot to mention my yarn." Of course, I've spoken to her about it, it's fine, we've cleared it up. Sorry Lorena, I'm so sorry. Of course, keen-eyed watchers of this podcast, fellow OSATers, will remember that a few episodes ago, Lorena had offered to give a prize for the Sock-along, because she's an avid sock knitter. She's knitted umpteen thousand pairs of the Allele socks, which she's giving away to all the nurses where she's visiting hospital at the moment. And had said, she's a brilliant dyer, as you know, and had said, I'd love to give some mint choc chip yarn. And it's really, really beautiful. And it was because I didn't physically have it here. And the reason I don't have it physically here is not Lorena's fault at all. It's another kind act on Lorena's part. She has said, wait till we find out where the winner is, and she can either ship directly there, or if it's going to be more cost effective for her, because the burden should be on me, she can ship it to me and I could then pass it on. So if it's somewhere in the US domestically, then it's going to be easier for her to ship directly from home, so I don't have the yarn here. So that's very kind of her, and the reason why I completely blanked on that prize was because I didn't physically have it here. I am the kind of person who probably shouldn't be allowed out and about with a podcast. Genuinely, I can't be trusted with that sort of thing, so we discussed it, and I could either have gone back to the thread and allocated another winner, but that actually would have been sort of the next winner down, if you like, and it's a really, really beautiful, lovely prize, and I felt it needed to be one of the star prizes. So, with Lorena's permission, I'm going to hold that over, and we're going to offer that as a prize for the June sock along, which I'm going to talk about later on. It proved so popular that everyone wants another one. So there's a sock along with a bit of a twist. That's all I'm going to say on that for now. So if you are wondering what happened to the mint choc chip yarn, that's what it is. You can get your hands on some by waiting until June and participating in the June sock along. With a twist. So that's that. What else have I been doing? What else have I been up to? Well, Ben and I, last week we went to see The Life, which is the musical about pimps and prostitutes and New York life. It was written actually 20 odd years ago. I think it had its off-Broadway premiere in 1990 and made it to Broadway in 1997. So this being 2017, the Southwark Playhouse, which is a sort of off West End kind of fringe type venue, in a sort of high quality fringe venue in Southwark in London, mounted this new production directed by the original director from 20 years ago on Broadway, starring some fantastic people. My friend John Addison, and who I sometimes do the singing waiter gigs with, and the sublime Sharon D. Clarke. Now, people may or may not know who Sharon D. Clarke is. In the UK, she's quite well known. She was a judge on, so I think it's a show called Last Choir Standing or something like that, a little while back, and she was in the original cast of We Will Rock You in the West End, playing Killer Queen. But I know Sharon a little bit. I don't know her that well, but she sang at mine and Ben's wedding, and she sang a song that we wrote called Love Conquers All. And she sang it so beautifully. For those of you who haven't seen our wedding film, I keep banging on about it. For those of you who haven't seen our wedding film, Love Conquers All was the part of the ceremony where Ben and I exchanged our rings. And it started off with Sharon singing while we displayed facts and figures and statistics on a big screen on the wall behind her about where in the world it's still illegal to be gay, where you can be put in prison for it, and where you can be put to death. And going on with what's happening in Chechnya at the moment, it's all very, very timely happening again. It still boggles my mind to think that anybody feels so frightened and so threatened by two people being in love that they would want to kill them. Genuinely, for once, I have no words. It's what are they so frightened of? How does it affect their lives in a negative way? I have no idea. So my support at the moment goes out to all of the LGBT members of Chechnyan society who at the moment are terrified for their lives, terrified of being rounded up and tortured and put in prison and perhaps even killed. It's horrid. Moving on from that, Sharon sang the song so beautifully, and we moved then into the moment where my goddaughter and Ben's godson, who were both 7 at the time, came down the aisle as our ring bearers, handed the rings to our best men, respectively. My best man was called Philip, Ben's best man was called Philippa. We decided to stick with the name best man, it was the traditional term. We did do some things traditionally, even though we had 2, 1 each. And they passed the rings to us, and we then exchanged them and wore them while we sang a quartet version of the song. And the choir came in, and in the middle of it, Stephen Fry read a beautiful poem. It was quite a large section of the film, and it was also beautiful, and it was kicked off by Sharon's extraordinary voice. Now, in the show, The Life, she plays this sort of aging grande dame of the sex worker circle and the community that they have there. And she's a wonderful character, but there's the one song that she has where she basically just sits down and she talks about the life, and it was an absolute vocal masterclass. I don't think I've ever seen a performance where one person puts so many different vocal colours and textures and techniques into one song. For comic effect, for dramatic effect, just for variety's sake. It was extraordinary. At one point she was even yodeling, sort of, kind of showing the pain, and her voice was cracking, and it was, but it was yodeling. It was done deliberately. As well as singing with growl and singing with high belt and singing very low. She's got an incredibly low voice for a woman. And then singing sweetly and big sustained notes going up into her head voice for some soprano licks. It was just absolutely incredible. And the audience were entirely spellbound. I was looking around, but in a brief moment where I wanted to sort of not be engaged in what she was doing, I just looked around and people were literally watching open-mouthed as this infectious sound washed over us. She's amazing. At the end, it almost got a standing ovation. People were just wailing and cheering and stamping feet and clapping. It was a real moment. So if there are award ceremonies that The Life is applicable for, it won't be the Olivier's because it's not a West End show, but if there are, I guarantee she'll be nominated at least for that, just for that moment. It was fabulous. So that was that, and then a couple of days ago we went to our friend Ben and Michelle's house with our friends Abby and Ian. Abby, you know from sitting right here. Well, this is all wrapped up in the wedding. Michelle sang in our choir for the wedding, and while she was rehearsing for that, our musical director, a young man called Ben Holder, who MD'd Ben's show Brass the first time round, he and Michelle clocked eyes in rehearsals and thought, he's a bit of all right, said she. She's a bit of all right, said he. And they became friends. And they became more than friends. And they're now living together. And they've set a date for their wedding. I'm so delighted that they met as a result of our wedding, and now they're having their own. I could not be more pleased. Well, they've just moved to a new house in Hatfield, in just north of London, and so we went there to see their house for the first time. Abby and Michelle have been friends for a long time, and Ian is Abby's husband, and we all went together for dinner. It was really, really lovely. Lovely to see them looking so happy, and that was an absolute joy to know that all of that is kind of happening. That Ben and I feel like the Yenters, the sort of the yarn matchmakers. Yarn matchmakers? What on earth did I mean that by that? I know this is a knitting podcast. I don't know where that word crept in. The matchmakers. Knitting on the brain. Not surprisingly, welcome to Sockmatician Knitting Podcast. And then, at the weekend on Saturday, I had the great delight and the great joy and privilege to teach a beginners double knitters class at Craft Days yarn shop in Saffron Walden. Saffron Walden is a very, very pretty town now is it Cambridgeshire or is it, do you know, I'm not entirely sure. postcode? I've taken it off here. It's not on my list. It's either Cambridge or North Essex. It's quite near Thaxted, where Ben's parents live, and it's a lovely shop. Lovely. It's quite a large class. We had 14 students. And my only regret, it was a very, very successful class, I had a wonderful time. My only regret is that when there is quite a large class, I have to spread myself quite thinly, going around to lots of different people and helping them. And if somebody has made a mistake, bringing that to the attention of the class to use it as a teaching moment. And look, this is how you can fix this stuff without having to rip everything back. I love it when people make mistakes because I get a teaching moment out of it. But when there's quite so many people in a class, I'm dashing about quite a lot, and I worry that I can't give the individual attention to everybody that I like to. I don't think it's actually a problem. I think that's more in my own psychology. It went very, very well, and there are now 14 new double knitters in the class, including Jane and Yvonne, who work in the shop. I think Jane either owns it or certainly runs it, and Yvonne works there as well. I nearly got the chance to meet Yvonne in Edinburgh. We didn't actually get a chance to coincide. She was only there for the one day, and it was the day I was doing 2 classes. But she said she did see through the window when she was queuing up outside, she did see that I was teaching, and she felt like we didn't know each other at the time. But it was lovely. I was made entirely welcome there. Everyone was incredibly friendly. People threw themselves into it. Some people pushed themselves way out of their comfort zone with great results at the end, which was amazing. We had a couple of FOs, which was really, really lovely, marvellous. That always makes me very happy by the end of the session. And I know that some people were like, I really enjoy this. There's a couple of people, you can always tell when someone's brain goes, oh, this is right for me. This is right for me. And even if they don't say it, from the sorts of questions they ask me, from the way they respond when I correct something or show them something, I just know some people just go, and it's in. And there was one particular lady there whose name I never got to know, unfortunately, and I could just see, it was like, yeah, we got another one. I'm always aware, with double knitting classes, I've never had somebody fail. I've never had somebody think, oh no, I can't do it, I can't pick it up. Everyone has great success because, as I keep saying, it's not as difficult as a lot of people fear it to be. So there's always that light bulb moment. It's marvellous. But I am aware that a lot of people do go away from a class going, oh, I really enjoyed that class, I learned something new, and they might never do it again. That's not just with DK, that's with anything that gets learnt at these classes. Some people like to collect skills, but they don't necessarily go on and use them. Then there are those people, like the lady I've just been talking about, who she's like, my mind has been opened, this is going to rock my world. And I love seeing that. I love seeing it so much. While we were there, Yvonne had made some lovely chocolate chip cookies for the group to munch on while we knitted. And we did, which was lovely. We did some damage on those. But she also brought out midway through cake. Now this cake was amazing. I don't know where she'd got it from, but it was fabulous. And because of all of the things I've been talking recently about my pride in the rainbow flag and my rainbow coloured socks and everything else to being a proud gay man, it was a rainbow cake. It had layers. It had about 6 or 7 layers. They weren't all exactly the right colours for the rainbow flag, but there was a dark. I don't know if I'll try. I think I've got a photograph of one slice. I'll try and get it and put it here. If I can't get hold of that, sorry, this is just a blank space. But it was beautiful. It was really, really lovely and very, very thoughtful. And at the end of the session, I was given the rest of the cake to take away. So Ben and I have been munching and chowing down on that ever since. Now, I was also given some really, really lovely gifts while I was there. I don't expect gifts when I teach. I'm getting paid, and I'm happy to do it. I enjoy it so much. But it was really, really lovely. One of the ladies, Julie, I believe her name is, she, at the end of the session, she came up and thanked me. She said, I've got a little something for you. I said, that's very kind of you to do that. And she said, it's nothing to do with knitting. She said, but it's the product of another class that I've taken here. So it's related to the shop. She said, and we do all sorts of different things here, and I wanted to share this with you. One of the things that she took a class in is bookbinding. And she's given me a little notebook, and it's really, really beautifully well done. Look at this. Amazing colours. She learnt how to do the marbling, so this is not a printed piece of paper. This is something that she has done herself on both sides. And it's bound, it looks like a real professional book. You know, inside it's got all this, it's beautifully well done. All the pages are hand stitched. You can see if you go to the centre, oh, there you go. You can see the hand stitching there. Really, really nicely done. It's good and sturdy. It's so lovely. Thank you so much. I really, really appreciate that. And I appreciate you wanting to share that. I'm just going to change my exposure because it's gone a bit weird. There you go. Also, Jane, at the end, she presented me with a little bag with a couple of things in it which I wanted to share with you. She said, I know you have a bit of a passion for project bags, which clearly I do. And so here's a bento bag. Look at this. Isn't that lovely? It's the Japanese style of, I correct me if I'm wrong, and please do write in actually, but I believe bento is the style of, maybe it's not the word bento, but there's a Japanese art of tying cloth into various shapes for like bottle carriers and picnic bags, all sorts of things, but all done from like a single square of material that gets tied in a certain way to achieve a certain purpose. I forget exactly what the craft is, but this is very similar to that. It's not made from one flat piece. It is shaped and stitched into a proper bag, but the top, I don't really know what shape it is. I don't want to undo the hand. The top is just a knotted handkerchief like that, and that's basically the shape of it. But it has this lovely logo on the side there, and it's just really lovely. It's definitely, there's work gone into the shaping of it and the stitching of it. I sort of want to undo it and investigate the engineering, but I fear I'd never be able to get it back into project bag shape. But it's big. I mean, it's really capacious. It's quite large. You get a lot of stuff in there, and it's really handy for just sort of knitting on the go, knitting from your arm, and then I can carry on. So that's going to be perfect and ideal for me when I'm knitting on the tube, which I do all the time. And beautiful, beautiful colours. So I really, really like that. Thank you very, very much. But for me, even more exciting was the little thing that was at the bottom of the bag. It's something that Jane made herself. I can't wait to share this with you. It's a brooch, so I'll wear it here in a moment, a badge thing. But look at this. It's a mini Sockmatician. Even down to the shaved head and the little Mohican in the middle. With his big, crazy, bushy beard. He has got a shaped mouth, hard to see there. There you go, he has got a mouth. And he's wearing a little knitted jumper. And he's wearing little trousers, and he's got little orange legs. But I adore him. And on the back there's a badge clasp. So he's brilliant. I suspect he might feature in this podcast a little bit more than he is at the moment at some point. Let's see if I can I do that up without looking? I'll edit this bit out. This is dull, isn't it? And there he is. Big Sockmatician, little Sockmatician. Adorable. Thank you so much. So I had an amazing time. I really, really did. I thoroughly enjoyed teaching at the class, and thank you to the team there who made me so welcome. And it looks like I'll be going back. We haven't firmed up any dates yet, but we're talking about doing, later this year, we're talking about doing another beginners class and possibly an advanced double knitters class as well. So if you're in the Saffron Walden area or can travel to it, watch this space. Watch Where's Sockmatician? Which is my dreadful new section of the podcast, which I will update and give you all details in due course. Moving on from that, talking about Where's Sockmatician, although this is just sort of news rather than something people can participate in. It's Wednesday today, but on Friday morning I'm heading back up to Edinburgh. Now, Joe and Mika, who run the Edinburgh Yarn Festival and run it so brilliantly well as well, are wonderful human beings. You know this because I've spoken about them quite a lot in this context and said what divine creatures they are. This extends beyond the festival, really. It turns out, I didn't know this, but well, I knew this part. A lot of the festival helpers are volunteers. The staff the people who were shepherding us tutors from class to class, getting our lunches, and all this kind of stuff. All the things that get taken for granted in a way because they just help to make everything flow so beautifully. They're all volunteers. Now, of course, they're happy to do it. It gives them access to the festival. It makes them part of it. So all of that is great fun. But as a proper thank you to them, Joe and Mika have put on some classes for them. And they contacted me a few weeks ago to see and said, I know it's a long way to come, but we'd love you to come up and do a class for our volunteers. I was like, yes, absolutely. I don't care if it's a long way to come. So I'm going up on Friday. My train's at 11, so I'll get there mid-afternoon. And then I'm going out for dinner with Joe and Mika that evening, which is going to be lovely. To actually get a chance to spend time with them when they're not completely involved in everything, although I never feel like that with them. They always have time to speak to people, which is amazing. I don't know how they do it, but it'd be lovely to see them in a more relaxed environment, so I'm really looking forward to that. And then I'm going to be teaching the next day. Now, this is going to be a big class. It is larger than I would normally want to undertake, but there has been quite a lot of interest in it. So I said yes, I'll absolutely do it. I'd be happy to do 1 or 2 classes if necessary, and then looking at the availability of all the volunteers and who was interested. The largest number of people could make a morning session on the Saturday, so that's what we've gone for. And Joe said, well, what's your maximum number? I said, you know what, just bring them in. Just get people in. Because this is a thank you to them, what I don't want is for anyone to be disappointed because they didn't make the cut, as it were. That just wouldn't be fair, and that would make me feel very uncomfortable. So I said, bring them all in. And Joe said, you know, it's fine to have a big number. He said it's going to be a much more relaxed environment than a normal teaching setup. It's like, it won't. It's still going to be a class. I'm still going to have to do the same things. But again, I'm delighted that it means that there's going to be, I think, 18 new DKers in the world, and my quest for global domination is one step closer to fruition. So, I'm teaching on the Saturday morning this week up there, and I'm really looking forward to it. I love everything about going to Edinburgh to do this knitterly stuff, and I couldn't be happier to be able to help Joe and Mika thank their volunteers, without whom, of course, the festival wouldn't be able to happen. So it's really important that these wonderful people give up their time, and it's just right that they get some kind of thanks in a tangible way, rather than, oh, thank you very much for coming along, but they get something back. It's really good of Joe and Mika to do that. It's all good stuff. So there we are, that's the roundup, that's done. Let's head into community straight away, shall we? And let's get into a little bit of Pod World. I haven't had a great deal of time to watch many podcasts recently. However, I would like to make a couple of shout-outs, if I may. One, I've just recently caught up on Zena's podcast, her most recent podcast. Now, she's taken annoying beyond all belief. I forgot to set my phone to airplane mode, and a phone call just came in, and it wasn't even somebody who I wanted to talk to. It was some sort of spam thing. There we go, back to nice exposure. So Zena's taken a bit of a back seat from podcasting recently due to other time commitments in her life and other things, although she's still doing quite a lot of dying. And yet she has said that she wants to sort of every now and then pop in with a new update. So I caught up with her recently, and it was lovely to see her. And yeah, it's just this is Little Yellow Uke podcast for those of you who don't know. I'm sure you do already. Really, really lovely, Zena. It's always nice to hear you and see what you've been up to. So no pressure, of course, but as and when you get the time to do it, we'll all be glad to see it. And the other person who has taken a bit of a break recently, but has been back, is Tilly Trout. Hi, Tilly. Ben and I recently caught up with both of yours. Ben is a massive fan of Tilly's. There's something about... I don't know what it is. There's something about the way Tilly talks that Ben has really, really fallen in love with. And I think I've told you this story before, but I mentioned this to her, and I'd said that Ben likes to listen to knitting podcasts as he drifts off to sleep. So very often there are podcasts that I watch on my own, and there are podcasts that we listen to and watch when we're just last thing at night. We're lying in bed. I have the iPad on the side, and it helps Ben to drift off to sleep. And he says that Tilly's was one of the most soothing. So when I told her this, she recorded a bedtime story for Ben to listen to as a special treat, as a surprise. I didn't tell him what it was. I said, oh, so she emailed it to me. It's an absolute treat. It's a little children's story that she'd made up herself on the hoof as she went. She's a brilliant raconteur, as you know, but a brilliant improviser and storyteller. And it was charming beyond all belief. And Ben was so touched. So when finally Tilly and I got a chance to meet in person in Edinburgh, we both got swamped by other people at the same sort of time. We were just saying hello and then got distracted and we didn't see each other again. So Tilly, I'm so sorry. It's one of my big regrets from Edinburgh that we didn't get a chance to spend more time together. I adore you and I would love to have spent more time in your company. It was lovely to touch base with you, but I think we need to do something a little bit more substantial next time we see each other, please. But Tilly, I suspected this would happen. I knew she was going to get a lot of attention because people will have missed her because she had stopped podcasting, and there have been 2 episodes since Edinburgh, which is lovely. I don't know if there will be any more, and again, Tilly, there's no pressure, but I had a feeling that you might have been encouraged, shall we say, to get back in front of the camera. I might lose my voice as the podcast goes on. I've got a little bit of a sort of swollen glands thing going on, which is a bit of a pain, particularly with all the singing that I'm doing at the moment. Be quiet. So let's move on, shall we, into podcast questions. And stupidly, I haven't prepped this, so I'm just going to bring it all up on screen now, and I will head in a moment. And here we are with the podcast questions. So Tanya, who her Ravelry name is Tanya and her name is Helle from Copenhagen in Denmark, has said, oh, I've just lost the page. Oh no, I can't bear it. Where is it? Where's she gone? Oh, here it is. Regarding Aloysius, here he is recovering from yet another night out on the tiles, being named after Sebastian's bear in Brideshead Revisited. Have you watched the series, and if so, what is your take on it? I've watched it more than 10 times over the years, and I still get very nostalgic and cry every time I watch it. It touches my soul and heart core in ways that go very, very deep. I also listen to the audiobook read by none other than Jeremy Irons. He's so blessed with that voice of his. Yeah, it's a wonderful voice. Hella, I'm so sorry to inform you, I've never seen it. I'm so sorry because I know that it's something very special to you. I don't feel too bad though, because it is something that's also very special to Ben, and he was the person who named Aloysius, and I was happy to go with that, so I can't comment on it at all. I know nothing about it. I even said to him recently, I said, it seems that people know the name Aloysius, and people seem to associate that with Brideshead Revisited. Why is it so popular? I said, was the bear quite a featured part? Apparently he was, which I'm sure you know. Tanya Rose. Now, where are you, Tanya Rose? Tanya is from London. You're local. Hello. Just round the corner, no doubt. Tanya Rose says, you say you enjoy chocolate. Do I? Now, there's an understatement and a half. I'm a massive chocolate monster. I am like the biggest chocoholic you can imagine. I can't get enough. Have I ever tried any of Paul Young's chocolate? Sea salted caramel truffles. No, I haven't. That wouldn't be Paul Young, the 80s singer, would it? Wherever I lay my hat, that's my home. No, it can't possibly be. Maybe it is. No, I'm afraid I haven't, but they sound delicious. And if you can write in and tell me where I might be able to get hold of some, I'll be getting some straight away. So we've got lots of chat in the podcast thread, which is very interesting. I'm not going to talk about it now, about different words for, we talked about it last time about the pink triangle being a symbol for homosexuality that's kind of fallen out of disuse, and I talked about reclaiming it. There's discussion on that, and interesting how different people's opinions from different places in the world are coming in. So if you want to head over and read all of that, that's great. I'm just going to stick with the questions here. So John Boy NY, I'm going to assume you're from New York, says, now I'm literally reading these blind. I haven't prepped this post at all yet. I just knew there were things in there. Has said, I've recently started watching your podcast, and I'm so glad you talked about the pink triangle on your latest podcast. Well, there you go. Do you know this? Oh, this isn't a question. I'm sorry, John. I'm going to leave it right there. I'm going to leave it, people. I've whetted your appetites now. I'm going to leave people to head over to that. But he's talking about, thank you for bringing it back to his attention. And, you know, I'm very glad to be able to do so. Blah, 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 blah. Grommy. Now, I don't think there's any information on Grommy's profile about... oh, Lisa. Hello, Lisa. Are you from Illinois? I should be in Illinois. Southern Illinois in August. Grommy says, Nathan, why don't you write a book? You are so very talented with double knitting. Why, thank you very much. With such beautiful designs. Thank you very much. Your tutorials on YouTube, good. Thank you very much. But I think a book with your talents spelled out with pictures and patterns would be great. You can't be everywhere to teach classes. That is true. I'm pretty sure others would love to learn from the master, so think about it. Well, Lisa, thank you. I don't consider myself to be the master. I absolutely don't. I think that accolade has to go to Alistair Post-Quinn, who has already written the book on double knitting. It's called Extreme Double Knitting, and it's a very useful book. He and I teach things slightly differently. That's okay. His way works perfectly well. And he's a brilliant genius mind when it comes to developing new things with double knitting. If I were to write a book, and it is something I'm thinking about, I don't think I would want to just do a book on double knitting, because I think that's been covered. In a way that Nancy Marchant has covered brioche, there's sort of not really much point coming up with a beginner's brioche book, because she's got all of that out there. Alice has done that with Extreme Double Knitting. So I do have some sort of, I don't know how to make this happen, but I do have a fantasy, a vague idea, a pipe dream of being able to come up with a book that it puts things, maybe not just double knitting, but maybe double knitting in a different arena or in a different context. So something that really is new and innovative. And I am thinking of it. I don't know how to get that off the ground, and I don't know that I've got the time to devote to it when I know that I want to be developing my own patterns for sale and all the rest of it. Putting those two things together, excuse me, is quite a tricky thing, time management and earning money to eat. So it is definitely something I'm considering. I do have an idea in mind that I don't want to talk about, just in case it doesn't happen, or in case someone else goes, oh, that's a great idea, and rushes out and gets there first. So I am on it. But don't hold your breath, it won't be anytime soon. Hey Nathan, says, what tact? Very much like what's tat. Now, what tact is Al from Ohio, who says, I was just curious, what is your opinion on double knit socks? There aren't many patterns for them out there, but given that it's two of the knitting techniques you seem to enjoy the most, would you ever consider making or designing a pair? Which would you most likely attempt? DK cuffs or a wholly DK sock? Cheers, Al. Well, a lot of people have asked me this over the years, and actually I don't have a good answer for it. I've never done it, and yes, I love socks, and yes, I love DK. There are patterns out there that I've never attempted. It's just not something that I've ever got round to. That's the only reason. There's not an actual excuse, or there's no reason why I haven't done it. I just haven't done it yet. I guess that I will at some point. I'm sure it's out there in my future. Knowing me, I probably won't use someone else's pattern. Knowing me, I will probably want to come up with something of my own. But other than that, again, it's just finding the time. Isn't that always the way? Doesn't life get in the way of all your crafting time? Isn't it such a tragedy? Hey Nathan, I noticed on your latest episode you mentioned you like chocolate. What is your favourite chocolate, and are you a knitter that eats chocolate whilst knitting? I never dare risk it, but sometimes the only thing you need in the day is your knitting and chocolate. Side note, I'm a fan of chocolate. I went to Capri World for my hen party, says Lucy, who is Lula Bella's, and she's from Cornwall, from a little place called Penpillick. You couldn't read that then. Well, what is my favourite chocolate? I like dark chocolate. But I like Cadbury's, Cadbury World, what a great place to go. I'm sure you had a fantastic time. I'm not a fan of cheaper chocolate. I know Cadbury's is not the luxury end, but it's a good quality chocolate. I've fallen out of love with Nestle chocolate. I've fallen out of love with... I haven't fallen out of love with Galaxy. I occasionally like Galaxy. I like Lindt chocolate very much. I love Lindor chocolates. But I really like green and blacks, and I love the different flavours they put in there. I like experimenting with different flavours of chocolate. I just bring it on. If it's got high chocolate content, then I'm a happy man. And then Life Poke says, Life Poke is, I don't have your name, I'm afraid. I know that you're from Canada, and I'm not going to share any more than that. But Life Poke says, hi Nathan, I'm just about finishing catching up on your podcast episodes, and I was wondering about two things. Well, I hope they are things about which you need to wonder no more. You've mentioned how you're aware the term podcast is usually used to refer to audio content, but you've decided to call your podcast a podcast because this seems to be the standard in the knitting world. Yes. My question is whether or not you're familiar with the term vlog, video blog, and whether you ever considered calling your podcast that instead. I guess the point is moot now, but my feeling is that the internet at large tends to call this kind of thing a vlog, so I had a little bit of a grammar vocabulary rant gnawing at the back of my head when I first started watching. Well, I jumped on the bandwagon because I knew that knitting podcasts were a thing, and many of them were video as well. It doesn't jar with me. I think what started off as a podcast was something that you could subscribe to with an RSS feed, and back when technology wasn't so good, we didn't all have fantastic cameras on our telephones, audio was kind of the only way to go. But as things develop, words come to encompass and envelop more things as we develop as a community. So I think that the audio community has spread into the video world, and I don't have a problem with that. Yes, familiar with the word vlog, don't like it. It's not a very attractive word. It sounds too much like flog, and I don't like that. But yeah, it doesn't bother me. I think it's just how it's an extension of, and I was aware that many people were doing video podcasts, vodcasts, if you will. I don't know. And of course, it's easier now with things like YouTube, where you can subscribe really, really quickly. So you still have that element of it being a subscription. They're not automatically pushed to your device like a podcast often is, but I think it still applies. And then the next one, for a more contentful question. I'm currently knitting your stalactite scarf design on rib, and I got curious about your pattern writing process. Is there a particular way you decide how to group sets of stitches into repeats? The way the pattern was written happens to be different from the way I've ended up thinking about and remembering the pattern, so I thought it'd be interesting to pick your brain about this. No, not really. When I'm looking at the repeats, it'll be one of two things. When I'm grouping stitches into repeats, it'll be either there will be stitches that are not part of the repeated section anyway, and then that'll be where the repeat starts, or I'll look at it and say, okay, so on most of the rows, things are grouped like this, so on this row I will also group it like that and have something on either side that's outside the repeat if something's offset, if that makes sense. So there's thought gone into it, but I do it in the way that seems most logical to me, but of course everyone's brains work differently. It may not be the way that's most logical to you and the way you envisage and think about things. I guess we all spot patterns. I don't mean knitting patterns, but patterns and formulas. Our brains spot them in different ways. And when I glance at something, the groups I see will not necessarily be the groups that you see. So does that help? I don't know. And there we are, that's it for podcast questions today. Not as many as I thought, which is because some of it was discussion. So do head over and read it if you want to join in the discussion about words like schwul and queer and all sorts of lovely, lovely goodies like that. Thought-provoking stuff which might just make you think about things in a different way, and that's marvellous. So let's bring back, shall we, a long-awaited, much-missed, much loathed section of the podcast by me, which is of course, What's Tatt? This has been absent for a little while. I'm trying to get hold of, I'm trying to work up a list. I know I have the list from Christina of what things I've already done, but I going through my arm and trying to work out what I haven't yet done compared with what's on that list already. It's really tricky. I was looking through today. I went down the list, counted how many I've done, and there were not that many actually, including the ones I'm going to do today, because there's a group today, I think came to 41, something like that. So there was still 33 to go. I then looked at my arm and wrote down a list of all the ones I could see that are not on the list, counted it all up, and I've got to 70. There's 4 missing. I don't know which ones they are. I know there are 74 symbols on my arm, but every time I count them, I come up with a different number. It's like magic. You know, the whole point of this arm was that symbology is it sort of carries power, and there's lots of Wiccan things on there, and there's symbols that are related to other forms of belief systems and perhaps magic as well. There you go. And oh, sorry, my exposure is really bad at the moment. Let's try again. How's that looking? That's not too bad. So of course, this arm carries a lot of power with it, a lot of magical power perhaps, if that's what you believe in. So maybe the symbols themselves are magic. Maybe they do shift around. Maybe they do decide to take a little holiday, and one time when I count them, there may be only 72. I don't know. There are 74. I know this for a fact. I can never count 74. They're dotted around. You have to... Anyway, today's What's Tatt is all about me. This is, of course, the most narcissistic podcast in the world. Vodcast. Vlog. Doesn't fit with me. And my tattoos, of course, I have said this before, they're all things that represent me, or things that relate directly to me, or things that I aspire to be in life. So what could be more representative of me than my name? My name is, of course, Nathan. And this is the only time where there are duplications of symbols on my arm. I have the letters of my name arranged that spell my name. I'll show you. Working down my arm, I have N, A, T, H, A, and N. I wonder if you've seen this arm a lot over the last couple of years. I'm wondering if anyone's actually spotted that before, or whether you're now going, oh, I never knew that was there. Or most of you just don't care because you're knitting and you don't look up from your knitting when you're listening. So I might as well be doing an audio podcast anyway. No, I've got the letters of my name here, and they are very specifically in the order of spelling the name, but jumbled up as much as possible so that they're not, it doesn't just leap out at you and, oh my goodness, he's got his name on his arm. They are all very deliberately as well in the same colour. The first tattoo artist who worked on my arm, I didn't choose the colours. I allowed him to choose colours for the individual symbols, but I did say to him I let him choose which one it was going to be, but I wanted all of them to be the same, otherwise it wouldn't have tied together. The reason it's there, I love my name. I really, really do. It took me a long time to like it, oddly. I didn't like my name as a child. I didn't like saying it. I didn't like the sound it made when I said the word, but I always liked the look of it. In capital letters, I have no curves. My entire name, first name, is entirely made with straight lines. That's kind of pleasing. There's also a pleasing symmetry to it. It's almost palindromic, Nathan. Phonetically, you could say Nathan would be palindromic because the th is one symbol. There's this theta, which is the circle with a line across it. So, although it's not like that because the vowels are pronounced A and so it's not, but it looks kind of symmetrical, and read backwards it's Nathan, which is pretty close to being Nathan anyway, and a lot of European countries will pronounce it Nathan or Natan anyway. So I like the symmetry, I like the almost palindromic nature of it, I like the fact it's all straight lines, I like the look of it on the page, and I love the letter N. I really love the letter N. I've got a lot of N's tattooed on my arms, some of which I've discussed already, some of which I haven't. There are other N's on my arms in different forms, about which more in future episodes. So I really, really enjoy now the fact that I love my name, and it is such a big part of who I am. Names have power, don't they? Your name is who you are. When I was at drama college, and I needed to change my name because my actual surname is not Taylor, it's Gage. And although it's a wonderful name, and it's a name I'm very proud of, it's a name that people have problems with spelling and pronouncing. It's pronounced Gage and is spoken as spelled Gaitch. Logical, you think, but I've had so many people misread it, and I thought, as an actor, I can't have that. So I needed to change my name, and when I was thinking about that, I was thinking, well, what if I change? It never occurred to me to change my first name, because that's who I am. Changing my surname didn't seem to affect my identity, because I think your surname is sort of where you've come from, but your first name, it really denotes who you are. And to change my first name would have felt like I was trying to be somebody different. Now, my two surnames, Gage and Taylor, are so interchangeable I sometimes forget which one is which in different contexts. So for anything professional, I'm always Taylor, but for anything like when I have to travel, if I have to fly, bank accounts, all that kind of stuff, it's all Nathan Gage. And I got married legally under the terms Nathan Gage, otherwise known as Nathan Taylor. Now that caused a bit of a laugh when the registrar sang that. Nathan John Gage, otherwise known as Nathan Taylor, she sang it. But I wanted it there because most people in my life now know me as Taylor, and yet legally I had to be married as Nathan Gage, but I was being billed in the show as Nathan Taylor because it was a professional gig as a writer and me as a performer as well as my own actual wedding. So it was kind of confusing. But it felt that if Ben were marrying Nathan Gage, that Nathan Taylor wouldn't be married to him. So to encapsulate the two, and it's a legal phrase, to encapsulate the two means that both sides of my life got married. And I think that was really important to me. So my name is very much wrapped up in who I am, and even though there's two surnames, there's only one first name, and that's Nathan, and that's me, and that's there. So that's the story of why there are 6 symbols on my name, 2 N's and 2 on my arm, 2 N's and 2 A's. It is the only duplication. It gave me a little bit of pause for thought when I was putting together the list, thinking, well, do they count as one symbol? So, no, they're on there twice. They're two symbols. And that's how it is. That's what's Tatt. Moving on. So the other crazy, silly title is Where's Sockmatician? And you can only say it with that little subtle tilt of the head. Where's Sockmatician? You can't say, Where's Sockmatician? No, it's Where's Sockmatician? The more I say it, the more ridiculous it sounds. But I wanted to give people a little update of where I'm going to be coming up over the next few months. And I've got a rather special announcement to make. So, these are not necessarily written down in chronological order. I should have thought about that. I think the next, apart from up in Edinburgh, of course, this weekend, but that's not a public thing, the next event that I'm teaching at will be the Yarningham Festival, which is in Birmingham, and that is at Sturchley Baths in Birmingham on the 16th of July. So the nearest train station is Bourneville rather than Birmingham New Street or anything like that. And I will be teaching my class there. I will put information on screen now as to where you can find information about how to book and all of that kind of stuff. I'm also going to be teaching at Pearlescence Studio in September. So this will be the 2nd of September, and I'm going to be teaching from 10 till 1. I can't remember off the top of my head whether I'm doing the beginners or the advanced class there. I'm so sorry, Sarah, I've completely forgotten. I will put that information here as well, so you can find me there. It's just sort of been let out of the bag, but I'm going to be, this is really, really exciting. I'm also going to be attending the Atlantic Knitting Retreat in the Republic of Ireland. Now, I've never been to the Republic of Ireland before. I spent a lot of time in Northern Ireland visiting friends over there and touring and performing there, in Belfast particularly, but I've never been to the south, and I'm really, really looking forward to it. So this is the 15th to the 17th of September, and it's a place called Killadoon. It's on the Atlantic coast, and the retreat is the Atlantic Knitting Retreat. This happens twice a year, I believe, and I'm going to the September one, and I'm just really, really looking forward to it. So I fly into Knock Airport, I go to Killadoon for the retreat itself, stay at this wonderful hotel. I've seen the photographs. It is right on the Atlantic coast, windswept, amazing. It's just going to be fabulous, and I really can't wait for that. I'll be teaching there, of course. But the big news, I'm so excited. I'm so excited about this. The big news, I'm teaching at Rhinebeck this year. It's just been all confirmed and final. I've been sitting on this for a long, long time. I've been desperately trying to make this happen, and I've been working with Karen and Sarah, who are the people in charge of the festival and putting together the workshop timetable. And it is going to be the most exciting thing. I can't wait. I'm going to be flying over to, this is in October, and it is the 22nd, I think. The 22nd of October is the date that I'm doing 10 till 1, demystifying double knitting in New York State. I can't wait. I'm flying to New York for a week. I'll be there visiting friends, and the weekend, towards the end of the week, I'll be going up to Rhinebeck to go to the Sheep and Wool Festival. I'll be able to enjoy the time there, and then on the second day, which I think is it the Sunday? It is the Sunday. I'll be teaching 10 till 1. I could not be more excited. I think there are 12 places available, so I don't know when registration happens. I think registration doesn't happen until the 1st of June, but keep checking out the information on the Rhinebeck Festival website. And if you are in the northern continent of North America, Canada, North America, and you can't get to the UK to come to a class anywhere else, this is your chance. This is my chance. This is what I'm most excited about. This is my chance to reach out to the US and Canadian contingent, of which I know there are many people over there. I get so many communications from people on the other side of the Atlantic. So I know there's a lot of you out there, and I cannot wait to touch base, meet you all. It's going to be amazing. So even if you can't get a chance to come to a class, please come and say hello. If you do see me at Rhinebeck, I'm so excited. I'm burbling like a loon because I am so ridiculously excited. just for the record, because I know that a lot of people are saying to me that they would love me to teach in their area in America. I can't. Work permits and visas and things like that mean I can't work in the United States. And this is how it has to be. In order for me to be able to teach at Rhinebeck, I'm doing it as a volunteer. I'm not getting paid. We looked into all sorts of different ways of doing this, and unfortunately, it was a case you cannot get paid for it. If I were to get paid, I'd be deported. Genuinely, I'd be deported and probably not allowed back into the US again. So that would be a disaster. So I'm not getting paid. I'm working there. Not working. I'm attending there as a guest, as a volunteer, and I felt that it was important for me to be able to, as I say, reach out and greet and meet and teach American citizens that I can't do over here. It was important enough to do it to want to do it for no fee. So that's how it's come about. That's how we've managed to make it work, which I guess benefits the festival quite well because they don't have to pay me, but they're going to get some class fees coming in, and I'm very, very happy to be able to help out with that. I'm so excited. So I will be in New York. I will be in New York on my own. I will probably be, I'm going over on the 16th. I'm flying over on the 16th, so from the 17th basically up until I go up to Rhinebeck at the weekend, I will be, October this is, I will be around in New York. I'm planning to try and organise a little bit of a knit together, possibly at one of the shops, one of the yarn shops, either in New York, in Manhattan, or in Brooklyn perhaps, but possibly Knitty City or Pearl Soho, something like that. I may get in touch with them and see if they'd be willing to set aside a couple of hours for people to just pop in and say hi. When I go to New York, I have a lot of people there that I know, so I'm going to be a really, really busy person, but I absolutely want to get the chance to meet some knitty people. So put that in your diaries. I'll keep you updated of when I get a time and a space and a location, and we can all get that. But if not, I'll see you at Rhinebeck. I love saying that. I'll see you at Rhinebeck. Amazing. I can't wait. So there we are. That's where you can find Sockmatician internationally. Southern Ireland, which is not part of the United Kingdom, so that's international. New York State, that's definitely international. Scotland, I mean, it's part of the UK, but it's not England, and all over England. Wales, come on Wales, book me. So that is brilliant, and I could not be happier. So there's a lot of information about that. Moving on then into the actual nitty goodness, I don't have any stash enhancement, although I guess this counts. So I'm delighted to be able to share that in stash enhancement. There it is, and gone. Bye-bye. Moving on then to FOs. I have one, but before we get to that, let's talk about whips. I have none. That's so weird. Many of you will know that recently I've been knitting pretty monogamously on my Il Burato scarf because I've wanted to finish it, get it finally off the needles. So I finished my last pair of socks and unusually for me, deliberately didn't cast on any more. Normally I cast on a new pair of socks immediately because I've always got socks on the go. Not so, I haven't. I do, of course, have a couple of things on the go. I've got the, they're sort of languishing a bit. I've got the piano number 3, which I will now be able to go back to now that I've finished Il Burato. And I've also got the Fair Isle tank top, which I haven't done anything on since before Edinburgh. I do plan to go back to that. I'm hoping that I can finish that over the summer and make it my Rhinebeck sweater, because I know that's a thing and I want to be involved in that. So that's the plan. I'm not going to stick to it necessarily, but that is the plan. I'm going to beat myself up if I don't manage it. But, so I deliberately haven't cast anything else on, but day before yesterday, I was at work all day yesterday, I finished Il Burato. You will have seen the picture on Instagram if you follow me. I am so in love with this scarf. Here it is, in all its fringy glory. I can't tell you how much I love this bad boy. It is just the most beautiful. Ben says he thinks this is his favourite thing I've ever knitted, which is high praise indeed, because he's a big fan of the Sanka scarf. I mean, here we are. So for those of you who don't know, this is a scarf I've been working with for a very long time. Last year sometime I came across, someone shared with me an online archive of this book of patterns from 16th century Italian needlework design. And it looks like this. So what I did is I went through the entire book and I charted out the patterns that were there. And this scarf exists essentially in the same order that the patterns appeared in the book. All I did was chart them out. I had to do little bits of shenanigans to make sure they were all 59 stitches across, 59 pairs of stitches, is double knitting. And it just goes on and on and on, and it is, I couldn't love it more. I'm also in love with the fringe, really in love with the fringe. It's the right side of the fringe. It has a right side and a wrong side. Doesn't really matter. But there we are, there's my fringe all knotted in. Oh! So I did a couple of little bits and pieces of playing with some of the patterns to make sure that they all worked with the scarf as I was putting it together. You'll also... And I ran out of storage space. But here I am again. It's not going well today, is it? So I've completely forgotten what I was talking about. Oh, I know what I was talking about. I was talking about the ends of the scarf, wasn't I? There we are. You'll notice, keen-eyed amongst you, that well, it's the same way around. I deliberately changed things up. It starts and ends with the same pattern, essentially, and I very deliberately chose, look, they are different lengths. I very deliberately chose the same two colours for that, although on the same side of the scarf I have reversed those two colours. Now this is where I took a little bit of a liberty with the order as they appear in the book. The first page shows the longer version of these two patterns with the shorter version directly above it, like that, with the colours reversed. So that was the point of reversing the colours on the two things. They're like that on the page, longer and shorter. I didn't want to start the scarf with two patterns that were identical, even if the colours were reversed, so I split them up and put the other one to the end. Other than that, essentially, apart from one other exception just for aesthetic choices, they are as they appear in the book. There are a couple of errors in the charts originally, which I've corrected for symmetry's sake and all the rest of it because I'm a perfectionist, but they are as they appear. So the way I'm writing up the pattern is I'm separating all of the patterns. I charted out the entire scarf, and I've worked from that on my iPad, which I don't know, you might be able to see it. But the whole, it's 718 rows, 59 pairs of stitches across, so you do the maths. It's a big, big chart. So I'm not going to do that for the pattern. What I'm doing is I'm splitting them up and I'm breaking them down into their repeats, so the charts will be hopefully as small as possible. But I would love it. I will absolutely give information as to exactly what I did. So if people want to use the same colours and the same colour combinations that I did, they will be able to. But I'm going to have I want people to have a little bit more fun with it. I want there to be an element of randomness to how the patterns are chosen. I'm going to come up with some sort of dice game or some random way of deciding which patterns are when, if that makes sense, and then potentially which colours you use. I've used 4 colours. You use as many as you like, really, but you need a way of deciding which two and which way round you're going to use them. So there's potentially 12 different combinations with 4 colours, because you've got A and B, B and A and C, C and A and D, D and A, B, brain meltdown again, A and B, B and A and C, C and A and D, D and A, B and C, C and B, B and D, D and B, C and D, D and C. Yeah, there you go, 12. I was right. That must have been really boring to watch my brain go through that. I'm so sorry. So there's potentially 20, depending on which way around you go. Of course, A and B and A are the same, but they have different background colour, different foreground colour. So there's lots of different options. And that's great, because 12 is twice 6, and 6 is 2 dice. So then I may have some fun with that. So you can either plan it out yourself, or you can chart it. I very deliberately didn't do any planning with which colours I was going to use. I just decided to use whichever 2 looked nice next. They're kind of spread out, they're kind of random, but they're not in any sort of order. So as you work your way along the scarf, there's, we've got quite a lot of orange showing in this area, orange and burgundy, and then the orange and the yellow. Then we've got 2 lots of blue together, but then we've got yellow and burgundy next to the orange and blue, so there's no repetition there. So there's no real system to it. It was just what I thought looked aesthetically the nicest. And then when I got to the end, obviously there's hundreds of ends to weave in on this scarf. I'm sorry, that's life. That's the life of a knitter. There are thousands. But then when I got to the end, I just wanted a fringe. I don't normally put a fringe. In fact, this is the first time I've ever done it on a double knitted scarf. I let the double knitting be enough of its own, but I worked out how many I wanted. I deliberately wanted to start and finish with the same colour, so there's an air of symmetry, even though they're going in order: orange, burgundy, yellow, blue, orange, burgundy, yellow, blue, blah 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 blah, orange, burgundy, yellow, blue, orange, just to bookend the 2. And I've done exactly the same on the other end, starting and finishing with orange. So there's a bit of unity to it there. It just worked out that way quite nicely with the maths, with the number of stitches I had. And the yarn, you probably know this already, but the yarn is Travel Knitter, who's my good friend Larissa, who's a dyer who works out of northwest London. Northeast London, my mistake. And the colours are, this is her BFL Super Sock, and it's 75% BFL and 25% nylon. The orange is called Uluru, previously Ayers Rock, which is perfect colour. The yellow is Jaipur. The blue is Dabbling Duck, bluey green, teal green, and the burgundy is called English Damson. So you can find those on her website, or you can purchase them. She sells at Walden Woolly, which has a website as well. I'm sure she's got other outlets elsewhere. So check out those colours if you wish. It's really lovely. If it's a denser yarn than Malabrigo sock or something like that, or a merino, there's definitely that bounce and that spring that BFL gives to it. And I've loved working with it. I think the colours are so beautiful. Of course, everywhere I go, when I've been knitting this, and the last couple of days when I've been wearing it, because thankfully it's still quite chilly and I've been wearing my scarf, everyone just looks at it and goes, "Oh, those colours are amazing." Pattern be damned, the colours are amazing. So Larissa, you've done a fabulous job, and they work so well together. I love this scarf. I couldn't be happier with it. So what's next, I hear you ask? Well, I need to get something on the needles, because I've got train journeys to and from Edinburgh coming up and nothing to knit. That's a shocker. I know what I'm planning to knit next. I'm going to use the 3 alpaca yarns that I got from Edinburgh Yarn, the biscuit, the nutmeg, and the fudge, I think they're called. Something like that. The 3 brown shades of yarn. I'm going to knit a cowl with that. I can't wait to start. I've got the beginning and the end sorted out. I haven't quite worked out what I'm going to do in the centre of it. It's going to be a tall, narrow cowl, not a wrappy, roundy cowl, but one that just sort of sits there and can bunch up lots. It's going to be really, really tall, but you squish it right down and make it really, really cosy. That's the plan for that. And I need to get some socks on the go, and that'll do me for now. And then I can also go back to working on piano number 3 and the Nahani River vest. And that should keep me busy enough. And that, my friends, brings us to the end of this podcast episode. So while this podcast episode is a finished object, remember, life is a work in progress. Just take it one stitch at a time. I will hopefully see you all in person somewhere around the world now that I'm internationally acclaimed as a teacher of double knitting. Well, going to international places. I don't know about the other. And if I can't see you in person, I'll see you on the next episode. Bye-bye.